Let us journey back together, not with our bodies, but with our minds, to the height of the Roman Empire. It was a time that feels both impossibly distant and strangely familiar, a time of emperors and gladiators, of poets and philosophers. At its zenith, in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, this empire was more than just a place on a map, it was an entire world, a universe of power, culture, and ambition held together under the watchful gaze of the Roman eagle. Imagine us, floating high above the earth, looking down upon this magnificent and sprawling domain. This was an empire that stretched from the misty, green hills of the British Isles in the north, where legionaries stood guard on cold stone walls, to the sun-scorched deserts of Africa in the south, where the sands of the Sahara lapped against the edges of civilization. It reached from the rugged shores of the Iberian Peninsula in the west, rich with silver and olives, all the way to the ancient and fertile lands of Mesopotamia in the east, a frontier of conflict and commerce where Roman patrols met the great empires of Persia. The Mediterranean Sea, once a barrier that separated peoples, was now a Roman lake, its waters a great highway connecting the disparate parts of this single, colossal state. This was an empire where a multitude of diverse cultures, languages, and ancient traditions all blended together. A Celtic chieftain in Gaul might pray to his old gods, but he did so using Latin phrases and Roman rituals. A Greek scholar in Athens would write philosophy that was read with admiration by a Roman senator in his villa. An Egyptian farmer tending his fields along the Nile did so knowing that his grain would feed the legions stationed on the far-off Danube. It was a true melting pot of cultures and ideas, a vibrant and diverse civilization unlike any the world had seen before. This was an age of incredible contrasts, a time of staggering opulence and startling decadence, a time of brilliant innovation and brutal conquest. It was an era that witnessed a profound cultural and intellectual flowering, leaving an indelible mark on the annals of human civilization that can still be felt today. The works of its great poets like Virgil and Horace, and its Stoic philosophers like Seneca and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius himself, are still read and admired, their words echoing across the centuries with timeless wisdom. Yet, for all its glory, life under the shadow of the eagle was not always easy. The empire's vast size and cultural diversity made it a constant challenge to govern. Uprisings and rebellions were common, especially in the more distant provinces where the hand of Rome rested uneasily. It was a society built on a foundation of widespread slavery, and the lives of those in bondage were often marked by severe hardship and brutality. The chasm between the immensely wealthy and the desperately poor was vast and deeply ingrained in the social fabric. But despite these immense challenges, the Roman Empire managed to maintain its stability and cohesion for several centuries, a remarkable testament to its administrative efficiency, its complex legal system, and its formidable military might. It was a world of power and struggle, of culture and learning, and of profound human aspiration and achievement. As we begin our journey, we will explore all of it, the grandeur of the palaces and the quiet desperation of the tenements, the honor of the Senate and the roar of the Colosseum, the peace of the olive groves and the chaos of the battlefield. For now, let us hold this vast map in our minds. Picture the sheer scale of this world, bound together by a network of stone roads and governed by a single, powerful idea. From our high vantage point, we can see it all, a great tapestry woven with the threads of 100 different peoples. And at the very center of this tapestry, there is a single, pulsating heart, a city of marble and noise, of power and people. That city is Rome itself, and it is there that our journey will take us next. Picture the city of Rome in this era, the heart of the empire, pulsating with life and restless activity. It was a city unlike any other in the ancient world, a sprawling, chaotic, and magnificent metropolis that was home to over 1 million residents, a figure truly staggering for the time. As we wander through the ancient city in our minds, we find a world of breathtaking contrasts, where unparalleled grandeur and profound squalor existed side by side. The city's grandeur was a testament to the empire's might and prosperity, reflected in its towering monuments, expansive public spaces, and lavish villas. Imagine the sight of grand edifices like the Colosseum and the Pantheon that punctuated the city's skyline. These were more than just buildings, they were architectural marvels, bold declarations of Rome's unparalleled engineering prowess that continue to captivate us in the present day. Our path leads us to the Grand Forum, the heart of Roman public life. This was the central hub for all political, economic, and social activities. It was here that the citizens of Rome would gather to hear important speeches, witness trials, and participate in public affairs. The illustrious marble buildings reflected the sun, creating an almost ethereal glow that must have been awe-inspiring to all who saw it. Yet, for every magnificent temple and luxurious palace, there were crowded tenements and bustling marketplaces. The city's streets were perpetually alive with a constant hum of human activity. Imagine the sounds, vendors hawking their goods, from fresh produce to fine jewelry, the playful shouts of children echoing through narrow alleyways, the clatter of carts and chariots on the cobblestones, and the ceaseless chatter of a diverse populace, a melting pot of cultures, languages, and traditions from every corner of the empire. But even in this bustling metropolis, there were places of quiet reflection. The Romans understood the need for respite from the urban clamor. Serene, manicured gardens offered peaceful enclaves of green, while the grand public bathhouses, or thermae, were tranquil sanctuaries for the body and soul. These were not merely places for hygiene, but served as vital social hubs where Romans of all classes could gather to relax, conduct business, and gossip after a long day. Some of these bathhouses were architectural masterpieces in their own right, boasting large heated pools, steam rooms, gymnasiums, and even libraries where one could engage in intellectual discourse. As the sun would begin to set, the city would transform. The harsh light of day would soften, and the stone buildings would be illuminated by the warm, flickering glow of thousands of oil lamps. The streets would grow quieter, but the city was far from sleeping. The doors of taverns and inns would be thrown open, and the sounds of music and laughter would spill out into the night air. Romans would gather to eat, drink, and revel in each other's company, sharing stories and forgetting the struggles of the day. This was Rome, the heart of the world. A city of power and struggle, of culture and learning, of human aspiration and remarkable achievement. It was the epitome of what it meant to live during the peak of the Roman Empire, a symbol of a civilization that, for all its complexities and contradictions, continues to fascinate and inspire us over 2,000 years later. As we prepare to delve deeper into the lives of the people who walked these very streets, let the echoes of this ancient city lull you into a peaceful state of mind. At the very top of Rome's rigid social hierarchy were the patricians, the wealthy aristocrats who held the highest offices and wielded immense political power. These were the great families of Rome, the wealthy landowners whose lineages often traced back to the city's mythological founding. They lived in a world apart from the common plebeian, a world of grand villas, political maneuvering, and elaborate feasts. Let us imagine we are invited guests, stepping through the doorway of a patrician home, a domus, situated on one of Rome's famous hills overlooking the sprawling city below. We leave the noisy street behind and enter a realm of quiet opulence. The first thing we notice is the sense of space and light. At the heart of the Domus is the atrium, a large, open central courtyard that served as the social and business hub of the house. High above, an opening in the roof allows a single, perfect column of sunlight to stream down, illuminating the space and glistening on the surface of a shallow pool below, the impluvium, which cleverly collected rainwater for the household. Our host, the paterfamilias or father of the family, greets us here. His day began hours ago, at dawn, with the salutatio, a crucial morning ritual where his many clients, lower-class citizens who depended on his support, paid their respects, offering their services in exchange for his protection and aid. After holding court in his own home, he would have spent his morning in the forum, tending to the intricate dance of Roman politics, his mind occupied with matters of state and the constant effort to maintain and increase his dignitas, his prestige, reputation, and standing in society. As our eyes adjust to the serene light of the atrium, we begin to appreciate the sheer artistry of our surroundings. The walls are not bare stone, but are covered in elaborate frescoes, vibrant paintings depicting dramatic scenes from mythology, idyllic landscapes, or moments of daily life. The floors beneath our feet are not mere tile, but breathtaking mosaics, painstakingly crafted from thousands of tiny colored stones to form complex geometric patterns or even portraits of gods and heroes. These decorative elements were more than just beautiful, they were a powerful statement, a way for the homeowner to display their immense wealth, their sophisticated taste, and their high level of education to all who enter. As evening approaches, we are led from the atrium into the dining room, the triclinium, for the main event, the cena, or dinner banquet. Here, we do not sit at a table, but recline on plush couches arranged in a U-shape. Slaves, who performed all the domestic chores and labor in the household, moved silently and efficiently, bringing forth course after course of extravagant dishes. This is a feast designed to impress, featuring delicacies from every corner of the empire. We might be served roasted peacock, stuffed dormice, and oysters, all accompanied by the finest wines, sweetened with honey. But the food is only part of the experience. The banquet is an elaborate affair, lasting several hours, filled with lively conversation, and accompanied by professional entertainers, musicians playing lutes, poets reciting verses, and graceful dancers moving in the flickering lamplight. This was the life of the Roman elite, a world of immense comfort and luxury, yes, but also one of constant performance, where every mosaic, every political alliance, and every dish served at a banquet was a calculated part of maintaining power and prestige in the most powerful city on earth. Beneath the patrician elite, who lived their lives of politics and leisure, were the common people of Rome, the plebeians. They were the farmers and traders, the craftsmen and the laborers. They were the vast majority of the city's population, the engine of its economy, and the very backbone of the city's daily life. While the patricians debated in the Senate, it was the plebeians who baked the bread, cobbled the roads, and filled the bustling marketplaces with the sounds of commerce and life. To understand the life of a plebeian is to understand the reality for most Romans. Their world was not one of private villas, but of towering, multi-story apartment buildings known as insulae. These structures were often packed into the city's dense neighborhoods, and they were frequently built cheaply, with timber frames and poor foundations. Life in the insulae was a world away from the luxury of the domus. The apartments were small and cramped, often with a single room serving as both a living and sleeping area for an entire family. They lacked the basic amenities the wealthy took for granted, such as running water or proper sanitation. This style of construction created constant dangers. Fire was a constant and terrifying threat, a single dropped lamp capable of consuming an entire block in minutes. There were even instances of these poorly constructed buildings simply collapsing. This was the everyday reality for most of the citizens who called Rome home. Yet, despite these hardships, the insulae were vibrant places, teeming with the sounds and smells of life. Neighbors lived in close quarters, forging a strong sense of community born from shared struggle and experience. Though their individual status was low, the plebeians as a group were not powerless. In the early days of the Republic, they had little political say, often finding themselves at the mercy of the patrician class. But through centuries of collective action, protest, and negotiation, a long struggle known as the conflict of the orders, the plebeians gradually won crucial political rights. Most importantly, they gained the right to elect their own officials, the tribunes, who had the extraordinary power to veto the actions of the patrician-controlled Senate and consuls. This gave the common people a vital safeguard against tyranny and a powerful voice in the affairs of the state. These political institutions were a source of great pride for the plebeians and were absolutely vital to the functioning of the empire. Life was often hard, and the gap between the rich and the poor was a vast, unbridgeable chasm, starkly visible in the city's urban landscape. The promise of social mobility, while it existed, was a rare exception rather than the rule for most. Yet, it was the endless labor, the steady commerce, and the sheer resilience of these common people that allowed the golden villas to stand and the empire to prosper. They were the true, beating heart of Rome, the indispensable foundation upon which all the grandeur and glory was built. Slavery was an integral, undeniable part of the Roman economy and society. The leisure of the patricians, the efficiency of the great estates, the variability of the empire to function on such a grand scale, all of it was built upon the backs of slaves. They were a constant, visible presence in every aspect of Roman life, yet their own lives and humanity were often rendered invisible by their legal status. It is important to understand that Roman slavery was not based on race, but rather on circumstance. A person could become a slave through capture in war, as a punishment for a crime, or from the tragedy of being unable to pay their debts. They were considered property, to be bought and sold in markets just like any other commodity. The tasks performed by slaves were as varied as the empire itself. Millions toiled in the fields and the mines, performing the grueling manual labor that produced Rome's food and mineral wealth. In the cities, they were the craftsmen and laborers. In the grand villas we have visited, slaves performed all of the domestic chores, from cooking the elaborate banquets to cleaning the mosaic floors and tutoring the children of the household. Others were forced into the brutal and bloody spectacle of gladiatorial combat, their lives spent for the entertainment of the masses. The life of a slave was far from simple, and their treatment largely depended on the whims and character of their masters. Some were treated with relative kindness and were considered part of the family, their loyalty and skills valued. But for countless others, their existence was one of severe hardship and brutality, a life lived without rights, without freedom, and without security. Yet, even in this darkest corner of Roman society, there existed a flicker of hope. It was possible for a slave to earn their freedom. Through a process called manumission, a slave could be granted their liberty by their master, or sometimes, through years of hard work, even buy it for themselves. These freed slaves, known as freedmen, could then become citizens, albeit with limited rights. While they were often not viewed as social equals by those who were born free, this promise of freedom, however slim, was a powerful motivator. A former slave could become a successful businessman, and their children could potentially rise through the ranks of society. This possibility for social mobility, however rare, was a unique feature of Roman society and a testament to its complex and contradictory nature. These were the unseen hands, the millions of individuals whose labor and suffering were woven into the very fabric of the empire. Acknowledging their story is essential to understanding the full picture of life during this remarkable and challenging time. The Roman Empire was not just a political entity, it was also, at its core, a massive military machine. The force that forged this empire and then patrolled its vast frontiers was the first professional standing army in history, a force so well organized, disciplined, and efficient that its legacy still echoes in military doctrines today. The very backbone of this army was the legion. Imagine a single legion on the march, a city of nearly 5,000 men moving as one, their hobnailed sandals beating a rhythmic, intimidating drumbeat on the stone-paved roads they themselves had built. These legions were marvels of organization, divided into smaller, more flexible units called centuries, each comprising about 80 men led by a battle-hardened centurion. Each legion was a self-contained world, equipped not just with fighters, but with its own command structure, medical staff, and a corps of brilliant engineers. The Roman legionary was far more than just a soldier. He was a builder, an engineer, and a policeman. The same hands that wielded the short sword and the innovative pilum, a type of spear designed to bend upon impact, making it impossible for the enemy to throw it back, also built the roads, bridges, and fortifications that stitched the empire together. The legions were an engineering corps of unparalleled skill, their constructions so durable that some still stand today. In the distant provinces, they also served as a police force, maintaining the law and order that was the hallmark of them. Pax Romana, the great Roman peace. The key to the Roman military's enduring success was its incredible discipline and its remarkable adaptability. The Romans were not too proud to learn from their enemies. They would often adopt the effective tactics and weapons of the peoples they defeated, integrating them into their own military doctrine and constantly improving. This pragmatism, combined with their rigorous training and iron discipline, made the Roman army a truly formidable force. While the legions commanded the land, the Roman navy played its own crucial, if less celebrated, role. It was responsible for protecting the vital sea routes of the Mediterranean, ensuring that trade, communication, and supplies could flow freely across the empire's heart. Life in the Roman military was undoubtedly hard, a world of discipline and danger far from home. But for many, it also offered a rare opportunity for social advancement. A long and honorable career in the army was a reliable path to full Roman citizenship for many provincials who were not born into that privilege. Upon retirement, soldiers were often rewarded with a grant of land, a pension, and the chance to become respected members of their communities, their service giving them a stake in the empire they had protected. This intricate system of checks, balances, and rewards created an army that was not just a tool of conquest, but a vital institution that helped build and maintain the very fabric of the Roman world. The Romans were, above all else, master builders. They understood that to control a vast and diverse territory, you needed more than just soldiers, you needed connections. They demonstrated a deep understanding of urban living, recognizing the need for organization, cleanliness, leisure, and community, and they implemented these principles in their grand designs. This attention to detail, coupled with their incredible technological prowess, contributed to the high standard of living enjoyed during the peak of the Roman Empire. They built an intricate network of roads and bridges to expedite trade and military movement across their domain. Imagine standing on a hillside, looking out over the landscape. In the distance, you see not a winding dirt track, but a perfectly straight line cutting across hills and valleys, a testament to Roman purpose. This is a Roman road. These were not just paths, they were feats of engineering, built in layers of stone, gravel, and sand to last for centuries. Legionaries, serving as both soldiers and engineers, did much of this construction, their discipline allowing them to build roads and fortifications with unmatched speed and efficiency. This vast network connected the far-flung corners of the empire, allowing legions to march quickly to quell a rebellion, and allowing merchants' carts to carry goods from the ports of Egypt to the markets of Gaul. Just as vital as the roads that carried goods and soldiers were the structures that carried life's most essential element, water. The Romans were renowned for their advancements in engineering and public health, and nowhere is this more evident than in their aqueducts. These were another marvel of engineering, using the simple, elegant power of gravity to transport water from distant, fresh sources into the heart of the city. Imagine these graceful, arched structures marching for miles across the countryside, a river in the sky, a symbol of Rome's ability to bend nature to its will. Some of these aqueducts are so well built that they are still in use today, a silent testament to the foresight and ingenuity of their creators. This constant supply of clean water transformed Roman cities. It fed the grand public baths, or thermae, which were central to Roman social life. It supplied public fountains, ran through the private homes of the wealthy, and flushed the vast underground sewer systems like the Cloaca Maxima, another engineering feat that greatly improved the sanitation and hygiene of the city. The Romans understood that clean water was essential for the health and well-being of their citizens, and their ability to provide it on such a massive scale was a key factor in the stability and prosperity of their sprawling urban centers. From their city planning and infrastructure to their homes and social centers, the Romans demonstrated a deep commitment to creating an organized and functional world. These networks of stone and water were the veins of the empire, the very infrastructure that allowed their unique civilization to thrive and endure. During the peak of the Roman Empire, the political system was a unique and complex blend of autocracy and democracy, a fascinating structure that was unheard of in the ancient world. In reality, the emperor held supreme power, the final authority on all matters of state. Yet, the Romans were deeply proud of their republican heritage, and maintaining the illusion of the old republic was politically important. This created a delicate dance of power. At the heart of this system was the Senate, an advisory council made up of Rome's most prestigious citizens. Its members were usually former magistrates, and they held their positions for life, unless expelled for misconduct. The Senate was not just a political body, but also a social institution, a sort of exclusive club where the elite would debate matters of state and society. While the Senate had no real power to oppose the emperor, its endorsement gave the emperor's decisions an essential aura of legitimacy. The emperor would propose legislation, and the Senate would formally approve it, preserving the traditions of the republic. The emperor could not rule this vast domain alone, and the imperial court was a complex web of officials, trusted advisors, and family members. The emperor's own household, the domus, was the true administrative hub of the empire, a place often filled with intrigue as different factions vied for the emperor's favor. While this political structure provided the framework for governance, it was the Roman legal system that formed the bedrock of its stability and endurance. Roman law was a sophisticated system of statutes, legal principles, and court decisions that was designed to be fair and just. It was built on centuries of tradition and precedent, famously beginning with the 12 Tables, the earliest written code of Roman law. This system was founded on the core principles of justice and the rule of law, and it introduced concepts that were revolutionary for their time and remain fundamental to many legal systems today. Most notably, the Romans were among the first to establish the crucial concept that a person is to be considered innocent until proven guilty. This intricate system of a strong central authority, a respected advisory body, and a just, sophisticated legal system created the order and stability necessary to govern a vast and diverse territory for many centuries. This legacy of law and governance, a framework for society built on principle and precedent, is perhaps Rome's greatest and most lasting contribution to the world. Life in the Roman Empire was not just about survival and struggle, it was also about enjoyment and celebration. The Romans were known for their profound love of games and spectacles. These events, often sponsored by the emperors and wealthy citizens, were not just simple forms of entertainment. In a city of vast inequalities, where the gap between the rich and the poor was a stark reality, these public spectacles were an important tool for maintaining social order, a way to divert the population's attention from societal problems and to promote Roman values of courage and power. Let us first find ourselves in the Circus Maximus, a massive stadium built for the most popular sport in Rome, chariot racing. The scale of this venue is almost impossible to comprehend, a colossal, open-air arena that could host thrilling chariot races that attracted tens of thousands of spectators, with some estimates putting its capacity as high as 150,000 people. Imagine the exhilarating atmosphere. The air is filled with the deafening roar of the crowd, a single, unified voice of excitement and anticipation. The spectators cheer wildly for their favorite teams and their heroic charioteers, their colored banners waving in the sun. Then, the race begins. Teams of horses, four abreast, thunder down the long track, pulling their light, two-wheeled chariots at terrifying speeds. The skill of the charioteers is breathtaking as they navigate the tight turns, the dust flying, the wheels of their chariots just inches apart. It was a spectacle of speed, danger, and glory that captured the heart of the Roman people. From the exhilarating speed of the circus, we now move to a place of a different, darker form of entertainment, the Colosseum. This grand amphitheater, the largest in the empire, was the venue for the infamous gladiatorial contests. Here, Romans would gather to watch these violent yet captivating performances. The shows were elaborate, often beginning with wild beast hunts and sometimes even featuring mock sea battles for which the arena floor would be flooded. But the main event was always the gladiators. These fighters, who were often slaves or condemned criminals, were trained in special schools to fight, sometimes to the death, for the entertainment of the crowd. Despite their brutal nature, these games were extremely popular, drawing massive crowds from all social classes. The spectacle was seen as a powerful demonstration of Roman power and the might of the Roman military. And though they were men of the lowest social status, the best gladiators could achieve a level of fame and fortune that was otherwise unattainable, their names chanted by the thousands who watched them fight. These grand and bloody spectacles, sponsored by the emperor, were a way for him to gain popularity with the masses, providing a thrilling and visceral experience that bound the people to their ruler and to the martial values of the empire. It was through these grand public entertainments, the bread and the circuses, that the leaders of Rome kept the heart of their vast and complex city beating in unison. Our day begins, as it did for all Romans, with the sunrise. As the first rays of light peek over the horizon, the city of Rome is already stirring, coming alive with the sounds of vendors setting up their stalls, the clatter of carts on the cobblestone streets, and the distant ringing of a blacksmith's hammer. For an average Roman citizen, the day started with a simple and light breakfast, the ientaculum, which typically consisted of bread, perhaps some cheese, and a handful of olives or dried fruits. This would be washed down with a cup of posca, a common drink throughout the empire made of sour wine diluted with water. After this simple meal, the men of the house would head off to their day's work. For the elite patricians, this would begin with the morning salutatio, where a stream of lower-class clients would arrive at his home to pay their respects and seek his favor. For the common plebeian, the morning meant heading to the bustling markets or workshops to begin their labor. The Roman workday was fairly short by our modern standards, often ending in the early afternoon. This was partly due to the hot Mediterranean climate, which made it impractical to work during the intense heat of the day. After work, the true heart of Roman social life began with a visit to the public baths, or thermae. This was a daily ritual for many Romans, and these were not just places to get clean, but grand, elaborate social centers for exercising, relaxing, and conducting business. A typical visit would follow a set routine. One would start in the tepidarium, a warm room that helped to open the pores, before moving to the hotter caldarium for a good sweat. Afterwards, they would take an invigorating plunge into the cold waters of the frigidarium. Many of these grand bathhouses also had gymnasiums, libraries, and even barbershops, and were a testament to the importance of cleanliness and community in Roman society. Refreshed from the baths, our Roman citizen would return home for the cena, the main meal of the day. This was a leisurely affair, often lasting several hours and shared with family and friends. For the wealthy, the cena was often an extravagant banquet with multiple courses, featuring exotic delicacies from oysters to peacock, accompanied by fine wines. For the common Roman, the meal was simpler, usually consisting of a grain-based dish like porridge, along with vegetables and occasionally some meat or fish. As evening fell, it was a time for relaxation and entertainment. Many would gather at a local tavern, or papina, for a drink, some gambling, and lively conversation. In the wealthier homes, the end of the cena would be followed by a commissatio, a drinking party where, as the wine flowed, guests would enjoy the entertainment of musicians or poets. As darkness settled, the streets would be lit by the warm, flickering glow of oil lamps, and the city that had bustled with work during the day now hummed with the gentle rhythm of leisure and companionship. This was the daily pulse of life in the heart of one of history's greatest civilizations. While the Romans were masters of engineering and military strategy, they also held a deep respect for the life of the mind. Education was highly valued in Roman society, seen not just as a path to knowledge, but as a key to advancing one's status and instilling the core virtues of a good Roman citizen. Let us imagine the educational journey of a Roman child from a wealthy family. In the early morning, the child, typically a boy, would be sent off to the house of a literator, a teacher of reading and writing. Girls, while not entirely excluded from education, often received a less formal education at home, focusing primarily on domestic skills. The classroom of the literator would be filled with the hubbub of children reciting their lessons aloud, a stark contrast to the quiet study we might imagine today. Here, they would master the basics of reading and writing in Latin, the common language of the empire. After mastering these fundamentals, the student would proceed to a grammaticus, a teacher of grammar and literature. Here, their world would expand dramatically as they delved into the great works of Roman and Greek authors like Virgil, Horace, and Homer. This was more than just reading, it was an absorption of the cultural and moral lessons these foundational works conveyed. A crucial part of this education was learning to write and speak in Greek, as bilingualism was a highly valued mark of a truly educated person in Roman society. For the elite, the final stage of education would involve studying with a reader, a teacher of rhetoric and philosophy. This was the equivalent of a university education, designed to prepare a young man for a prestigious career in law or politics. The art of persuasive speaking, or rhetoric, was perhaps the most prized skill for an ambitious Roman. This deep respect for learning was fueled by the Romans' great admiration for Greek culture. Many of the empire's greatest thinkers were heavily influenced by Greek ideas, and philosophy flourished under the patronage of emperors and the wealthy elite. The Stoic school of philosophy was particularly influential, with its emphasis on virtue, duty, and maintaining tranquility regardless of external circumstances, a mindset perfectly suited to the Roman temperament. Thinkers like Seneca and even the great emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote works of Stoic philosophy that continue to be read and admired to this day. This intellectual life was supported by a world rich with learning resources. Public and private libraries were widespread in major cities, their shelves filled with countless papyrus scrolls. There were also public lectures and debates, where the educated would gather to discuss the great philosophical and ethical issues of the time. It was in this vibrant intellectual atmosphere that Rome built its second, more enduring empire, not an empire of land and stone, but one of ideas, law, and literature that would shape the course of Western civilization for all time. As we drift away from the bustling classrooms and quiet libraries of ancient Rome, we find ourselves standing at the threshold of history, looking back at the grandeur that was Rome. The story of the Roman Empire, like all great stories, eventually came to an end. This period of unrivaled prosperity and cultural advancement would face its own decline, eventually giving way to the ages that followed. Yet, the fall of the empire was not an end to its influence. The legacy it left for future generations is so profound, so deeply woven into the fabric of our own world, that in many ways, Rome never truly fell. Throughout our journey, we have seen that the Roman Empire was a world of profound contrasts. It was a place where staggering wealth and power existed alongside grinding poverty and oppression. Magnificent marble temples stood just streets away from crowded, dangerous tenements. It was a society that produced some of history's most sublime philosophy, literature, and art, yet also reveled in the brutal spectacle of the gladiatorial games. It crafted one of the most sophisticated legal systems the world had ever known, founded on principles of justice, yet was built on the backs of millions of slaves who had no rights at all. It is in these very contradictions that we find the complex, and truly human, part of this great civilization. What, then, is its enduring legacy? It is all around us. The very languages we speak, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, are daughters of Latin, the tongue of the Romans. The legal systems in much of the Western world are built upon the bedrock of Roman law, with its principles of evidence, contracts, and the rights of citizens. Look to our cities, and you will see the ghost of Rome in the arches of our buildings and the engineering of our public works. The Romans' mastery of concrete and their innovative architectural techniques allowed them to build magnificent structures like the Colosseum and the Pantheon that have inspired architects for 2,000 years. The aqueducts that carried water to their cities and the great, straight roads that carried their legions are a timeless testament to their ingenuity. The Roman Empire was not just a political entity, but a vibrant and diverse civilization, a great melting pot of cultures and ideas that forever shaped the course of human history. It was a society marked by a rich culture and a deep sense of dignity and honor. Though the empire is long gone, its influence can still be seen today in everything from our architecture to our legal systems, our language to our culture. As you close your eyes and drift into sleep, carry with you the echoes of this ancient world, the murmur of the Senate, the roar of the Colosseum, the quiet wisdom of the philosophers, and the steady, marching feet of the legions. Dream of the grandeur that was Rome, an empire that once was, and in many ways, still is.